Good morning, I'm here at La Bebidas Salada, the Salty Beverage, and I'm joined by a good friend of ours, Mr. Bob Babbitt. And Bob, what I'm going to say to you first of all is, you're normally on this side of the mic with your notes. You're not going to need those today.
Sure.
We're turning the tables on. We're turning the tables on you, so we're going to get rid of that. You're always interviewing the best athletes, but you are the man with more triathlon knowledge, more triathlon history than anyone in the world.
As my wife constantly says, why don't you get rid of some of that old crap in your head and make room for some new crap? But I got a lot of old triathlon crap.
Oh, you have a lot of knowledge in there, a lot of knowledge. So, what I was going to start with, Bob, is we spoke in Kona about your early experiences with Ironman and specifically about those experiences with the nutrition in the early days. So, tell me about how you fueled and hydrated that first Ironman that you did.
Well, so the first Ironman I went to was 1980. It was a third ever Ironman on the island of Oahu. There was 15 starters in 78 and 12 finishers, 15 in 79, 12 finishers. And then an article came out in Sports Illustrated in 79 that led to 108 of us. It was booming in 1980. And who knew what the heck we were supposed to be eating, drinking. You know, I didn't know what to do at all, so I went and bought a bike from a police auction for $75. The whole back end had been in a fire, so we had duct tape wrapped around it. Actually, I had pannier, sleeping bag, and tent on the back of the bike because I thought you swam 2.4, rode 56, camped out, rode back the 56, and then ran the marathon.
So you thought it was a 2-day event?
2 days. And then there was no aid station, so you had to bring all your own stuff. And you better have your own crew with you. So my crew, I was a school teacher, so one of the kids I taught, her dad lived over in Oahu, and he showed up on race morning with his 2 girlfriends and a little Fiat convertible, and I gave him my 50 loaves of Hawaiian sweetbread and about, a case of Gatorade, because that was all that was out there back then. And so, but when I got out of the water, which was a little bit of a surprise, and I'm riding along, and there's my crew on the side of the road, 25 miles in, I'm like, this is so cool, they're going to do a Tour de France handoff. They handed me a Big Mac, fries, and a Coke, which was awesome at mile 25. Root beer snow cone at mile 90. Then come in at the end of the bike, and I'm like thinking about, I got to go for a run now. And I hear this music, and I roll in, and there's my crew with a bamboo mat laid out and a boom box, and they're like, how about a massage? That sounds good. I had a 45-minute massage between the bike and the run. Then they actually had scales throughout the bike and run course, and they wanted to make sure that people stayed safe. So if you lost 5% of your body weight, they pulled you out of the race. Where the science from that came from, I have no idea. So during the bike, we had to get off our bike, get weight. So I finished the bike, and I get on the scale, and then I'm waddling through Waikiki, eating Hawaiian sweetbread and drinking Gatorade, and I get to mile 5, and there's a scale. I get on the scale, and I can hear the guy in the walkie-talkie. He's like, can you give me that again? The guy's gained 5 pounds. He can't gain weight doing this silly thing.
So you're the first man to actually put weight on during the Ironman?
I gained weight during the Ironman. Hawaiian sweetbread and Gatorade is the key. So then we're running along, and we get to Diamond Head, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the coolest thing. I thought it was going to take me 2 days. And now I got the Fiat convertible behind me with the lights on me as I'm running up Diamond Head thinking, there's going to be all this. There's going to be cheerleaders. There's going to be bands. I can't wait to see all the excitement at the finish. I come rolling down the hill in the Kapolani Park. There's a light bulb and a chalk line across the road, and I sort of slow down, and I hear this voice in the darkness like, hey, you. Yeah? You in the race? Yeah. You're done. There was one guy doing one-arm push-ups in the park and me. There was nobody there at all. Yeah. But it was like one of those things I knew that I was changed. I had finished this crazy thing, and it became my life mission to grow this thing because I knew if it changed me like that it would change other people as well.
Incredible. And can you remember how long that first one took you?
It took me 14 hours and 50 minutes or whatever.
Unbelievable. And that's with a 45-minute massage stop and a Big Mac and fries.
Exactly. It was probably a 9-hour effort, but just those other little things led to more,
Unreal. And then since then, you've been involved in the sport as a competitor, as an athlete, as an entrepreneur, a businessman, a race director, a media personality, and you've seen all of these things come come. But we've talked about, our business is sports nutrition.
Right.
You were there at the start of that phenomenon. So you saw Gary at Cliff Bar. He's a friend of yours. The first bar. You saw Brian inventing the power bars. Yeah. Tell us about some of those early innovations and how that changed the sport.
Well, it's interesting because Brian Maxwell was a 2:12 marathoner from Canada, but he was always having nutrition issues. He was like, what can I eat during the race? Well, his girlfriend was making these little cookie things that became Power Bar, and Jennifer Maxwell. And they ended up getting married. And anyways, so Brian was starting Power Bar. I had competitor. This other guy had a company called Kashi, which was a warm cereal. And I remember being at this 10K at Christmas time in San Diego, Tinsel Run. And there's Brian with his bars, cutting up his malt nut Power Bars. And the problem was in December, and I don't know if you remember, but those bars would be like bricks.
Yeah, they went very hard in the winter.
Very hard in the winter. So we would take his Power Bars and put them on the dashboard of our cars, turn on the defroster to warm them up so he could cut them. Then Phil Tauber from Kashi is spooning out his cereal. I'm handing out Competitor Magazine, and the three of us are like, this is so cool. I wonder if we'll ever make a living doing this. We love it, but we don't know if we'll ever make a living. Brian sold for over $400 million to M&M, to Mars, I think. And then Phil sold to Kellogg's for $75 million. And then in 2008, we ended up selling to private equity as well with Competitor Magazine, which became Competitor Group. And then down the line, you had Gary Erickson, who was out. He was playing saxophone in his parents' garage and riding his bike. And after 6 Power Bars, he's like, there's got to be something better than this. His mom had a bakery, so he and his mom created this Cliff Bar named after his dad.
Yeah, his dad was like a climber, is that right?
Exactly. His dad was an adventurer, and so they created the Cliff Bar. And now, then with my favorite with Brian, he had an offer for $100 million to sell Cliff Bar to Gatorade. To Gatorade at the time, and that offer that's what you start your business for, to sell it. And he was going to be a rich guy. He had a partner, so each of them was going to get $50 million. The day of the sale, the day he was supposed to sign the papers, Brian got cold feet. He started thinking, well, we always think as entrepreneurs we can do it again, but what if that's your own idea? So he had second thoughts, and he refused to sign the paperwork, walked away. So he went from getting $50 million to owing his partner $50 million. So it was a $100 million swing in 1 second, but it was a smart move because he sold for over $1 billion.
Yeah, unbelievable. That book, Raising the Bar, Gary's book, is as an entrepreneur and as someone in sports nutrition, one of the most inspirational reads that you can ever have.
And my favorite part is when I saw the $1 billion sale, I texted Gary and I said, congratulations, sale. I'm guessing you're on your mountain bike somewhere in Europe right now. Immediately text me a photo. I'm here on the border of France and Switzerland on my mountain bike at 7,000 meters or 7,000 feet. You think about Brian, you think about Gary, you think about all the entrepreneurs. They had a belief in our sport. They had a belief in our athlete, and they were authentic. Gary's a hell of a mountain biker. Brian was a 2:12 marathoner. They were fueling their own passion, and they were solving an issue. They're solving a problem.
They understand what it was all about.
Exactly. And you guys are the same way. You guys are doing this. We think of you, we see you now. Nobody here knows about you guys back in 2011 when you're trying to figure out what the hell are we doing, and how many times, I know as an entrepreneur, how many times did you pay your staff and not pay yourselves? Where you had your checks sitting in the front at the top of the desk because you couldn't afford to pay them, but you knew eventually it was going to work. Yeah. We slept on, when we started Competitor Magazine, we slept on friends' floors for like three years, year and a half, 2 years before we paid ourselves. But we knew that running, triathlon, cycling, mountain biking was going to be special.
Yeah, it's what you want to do with your life. It's you get that buzz from it, you get the endorphins, and you just know that it's going to catch on. And boy, has it caught on.
Well, look at what's caught on. I mean, you think about IRONMAN now as a brand that started with 15 idiots on a beach back in 1978 and only 12 finishers. In '79, we had one woman And now you look at where this is at, where they have 140 branded Ironman events around the world. Millions of people want to become an Ironman, to want to do an Ironman 70.3 and be a world champion. This has touched a nerve, and I think it's just going to get bigger.
For sure.
People want to impact their own lives and also impact others at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we're here in Marbella in the sunshine in November. We've shut the town down, basically, with this event.
Well, think about the financial impact. Financial impact, you got 6,300 people who are racing. That's not including all their friends and family. There's 10,000 people here. And I came up with a formula years ago that one triathlete equals 4 runners in terms of what they buy. Now that formula is more like 1 to 8. So a 8,000 person triathlon, a 1,000 person triathlon equals an 8,000 person running event in terms of what people purchase. This is a very high consumer population.
Absolutely. Bob, you talk to all of the best triathletes in the world on a regular basis, and I know that you talk to them about nutrition and that kind of thing, because aerodynamics, carbon shoes, sports science training, and nutrition are the things that have pushed it forward. What have you learned from these guys about, the world of nutrition and how it's now being performed?
Well, if you think back, because we were all guessing, like you talked, Hawaiian sweetbread, Gatorade, we also had a thing in Kona, we called it the bomb, where we took defizz Coke, no dose and aspirin, and we'd leave that at mile 20 of the marathon. If your heart didn't explode in the last 10K, you had a hell of a marathon, right? But everybody was guessing. I remember Paul Newby Frazier would have on the back of her bike, she'd have a Snickers bar, she'd have licorice, because you don't know what your body's going to want to assimilate that day. Everybody was guessing. Scott Tinley, 2-time Ironman world champion, I remember one year he had this great race at Ironman New Zealand. And he is storming through the finish chute, somebody give me a pen and paper. And he wrote down everything he ate throughout the day. I ate this at mile 4. The next race he did exactly the same thing and blew to the moon, right? We were guessing. We had no idea what we were doing.
So nowadays it's about the science, knowing your numbers, dialing it in, practicing it.
Yes. Well, because like yourself, you didn't know that you had a issue with sodium. You didn't know that you needed more sodium than other people. There is no, you can't just do a cookie cutter and go, oh, this nutrition worked for Mark Allen, it's going to work for you. It's not. And that's what I love about what you guys are doing is the communication that you have with the folks. We did our interview the other day, and a lot of the comments that we got, I got a personal note from Johnny. I got a personal note from Andy, basically thanking me for buying the product and working out my nutrition with me. There's something about that this isn't some big corporation where you have some robot answering. It's people to people, athlete to athlete. We want you to have the best race you've ever had. And that's what I really appreciate about what you guys are doing.
No, that's awesome to hear. Thank you, Bob. Well, Bob, it's early in the day, but I think, and I could talk to you all day long. But what I think it's time for is maybe we should just have a drink.
I think we should have a drink.
Yeah, come on. So I'll grab one. There you go. PH 1000. It's never too early in the day for a PH 1000, Bob.
I love it. Hey, thank you, brother.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
You know what I mean?